We'll start our session now. Let's continue with data integrity controls. What is data integrity? If I have a record of 28 employees, their names, addresses, qualification, all the skills database, once I have entered it into the system, even after a certain period of time, it should remain the same. If it is altered by someone, modified by someone, or manipulated by someone, we can say that the data integrity is lost. So to prevent that kind of alteration or modification or manipulation, we will install data integrity controls. Now, what are the reasons why we are installing data integrity controls? To prevent, detect, and correct errors. If there are any errors in the recording of any transaction, we want these controls to prevent, detect, and correct them automatically. Then when do these errors occur? They occur during transmission, processing, and storage. They will occur during data is being transmitted, or the data is being processed by the software of the organization, or it is stored in the database. So there are actually 6 processes where we will do where data integrity controls will be installed. Now let's see what are the controls. First one is source data controls. What are the business transactions? The business transactions are purchase, sales, expenditure, income, etc. What we do is, for these we issue some primary documents like sales vouchers, purchase vouchers. Then for expenditure also we have certain documents. For income we have certain documents. So what we do is we prepare documents as a proof for money expended or money received. These are basically your source documents of the organization. Now, what is the threat? That the source data is either incomplete or manipulated or unauthorized. What does it mean, incomplete? That means on one of the vouchers, the GST number is not there, or the date is wrong, or all the details are not available. So that is what we will say is the source document is incomplete, or the source data is manipulated. What is manipulated? Here we are misappropriating the assets or embezzling them. So it will look like we have sold the assets, but actually it was taken away by the owners of the company. Then it is unauthorized. What does unauthorized mean? It means that the business transaction was conducted, but it was not authorized by the person. There is no signature on the source document. So these are the 3 threats, that the source data is incomplete or manipulated or unauthorized. So we will use source data controls to detect them and correct them within a period of time. Now let's see what are these controls. We will use an input form. We will design an input form which will make sure that all the fields are filled correctly by the user. So if in the name row you write a number, automatically it will prompt you that you have entered wrong data. Please enter the data correctly. So that is what you will do in input form. Now we have filled the exam forms issued by ICAI, then registration forms and all. If you write a number as your name, automatically when the person is feeding the data into the system, it will prompt to the data entry person that this data is wrong. Please input the correct information. So this is why we are designing this input form, so that at data entry level itself, we can identify errors and correct them. So the first control is input form. Then the second control is pre-numbered. All the documents of ICAI, they are pre-numbered, and they are pre-numbered before they are issued to the students. So after they have been printed and before they are issued to the students, we will pre-number. For they are printed in a pre-numbered format. Why do we do this? So that the student does not manually number them, or the person who is doing the data entry does not manually number them. Then sequencing. The data is entered into the system in a sequence, so that see, that is the reason why we are numbering the document, so that when we enter the data into the system, there will be a sequence. If we have a sequence for final students, for IPCC students, then the foundation students, then we will conduct a periodic audit, whether the controls are effective or not, whether the input form is issued by the correct person or not, whether it is authorized or not. We will do a periodic audit to ensure that the earlier 3 controls are working properly. So once again, what are the 4 controls? We will issue an input form. It must be pre-numbered. We will issue it in sequence, and we will conduct periodic audit. So these are the 4 controls for source data. Once again, what are the threats for source data? That the source data may be incomplete, manipulated, or unauthorized. What are the controls we will use? We will use an input form. We will pre-number it. We will issue it in sequence, and we will conduct a periodic audit. So these were the source data controls for source documents like sales vouchers, purchase vouchers. After this, authorization. Now let's see input validation controls. Now we are after we have verified the source documents, we will try to enter this information into the information system. Example is system accepting number as name. The same example we had taken earlier. What is the threat? The system accepting the wrong input. Okay, now the system has already accepted the input, and after that we have a query that this error is happening. We were not able to detect it. So what is the threat here? The system accepting wrong input. Now let's see what are the controls. If you are entering your mobile number, your mobile number is of 10 digits only. If you are entering 11 digits or 9 digits, it is an invalid number. So what we will do is, in the coding itself or in the input form design, we will make sure that there is a range check. If the number is less than 10 or more than 10, it will automatically prompt the user that please enter valid data. After this range check, we have limit check. Okay, both are the same thing. You can say range check oblique limit check. Both are the same thing. They have just used different words. What is the difference between range check and limit check? There is no difference. They are the same thing. Then picture check. Again, in the name field, if you write a number, or in phone number field, if you write your name, what is picture check is, it will prompt the user that you are entering wrong data. Please enter the valid data. Then valid code check. For ISCA students, we will have the roll numbers as ISCA 01, 02, 03. For advanced ITT students, we will have AITT 01, 02, 03. Okay, that will be the coding we will use for understanding the usernames and the course of the student. So we will also see yes, is there a lag? Valid code check.
No, sir.
So once again, what are the controls? Range check, limit check, picture check, and valid code check. Range check, picture check, limit check, and valid code check. So these were the input validation controls. If you design the input form correctly, the input form will itself become the input validation control. So we are assuming that the source document controls, they are all in manual form, and this input validation controls, it is in manual or physical electronic form. Then Online data entry controls. Now, what is online data entry? Whenever you are accessing a social media website or any new website, it asks for your Google credentials or your social media credentials. So you don't have to log in again and again. You don't have to create a user ID password. If you have a Google account, it will automatically sign you. Okay, you don't have to fill all the details again and again. It will just ask uh, your Google account to grant access to that website. So the data is being filled automatically by Google to that website. So that is online data entry. Now, even there is a problem that the system will accept number as name. For example, your Google account, for Google account, you have assigned a fictitious name. Okay, and when you are using Truecaller app, that fictitious name has become updated as per your Google account in the Truecaller. Now, for example, if my name is Pawan Karat, but my Google account is Jim Gordon. Okay, Jim Gordon. Then in Truecaller, my number will look like Jim Gordon instead of looking Pawan Karat. So the system, now in this case, a different name was used. If I use a number, then the app will accept the number as a name. But now the Truecaller app, it has online data entry controls. It will make sure that only names are either entered manually or correct names are used as per its information. So let's see what are online data entry controls. Now, first, let's see what are the threads that the transactions input to online terminal. They are either incorrect or unauthorized. See, the wording they have used is online terminal. So these data entry is being done online. Okay, a person is not doing data entry. The system is automatically doing the data entry, or an app or website is doing the data entry. For example, Google, and it is incorrect or unauthorized. Sometimes some apps we will grant access to one app, but automatically inside the one app there is another app which will also get the access and your credentials. So that is unauthorized access to the app or unauthorized permission given to the app. So online data entry controls, these were the threads. The transactions input through online terminal, they were incorrect and unauthorized. Now let's see what are the controls. Again, we will do range check, then limit check, then entry limit. If you forget your ATM pin, you will be allowed to enter the pin 3 times. After you have entered the pin 3 times, your card will be blocked. And even if you enter the wrong password 1 or 2 times, it will prompt you that this is the last time you are entering the password. If you again input the wrong password, your card will be blocked. So that is the entry limit. So that there should be no password cracking by the user. Then completeness check. If you are writing an input form and you leave any fields, it will automatically prompt you that all the mandatory fields were not filled. Please fill the mandatory fields and then submit the form. So that comment, it is because of the completeness check. Unless and until you fill all the fields, the form will not be submitted. Then user ID password controls. If you are entering your exam form details or registration details, the ICAI, what they will do is they will ask you for your user ID and password first, and then you can fill your exam form or registration form or any other complaints and all you can write. But first you have to give your user ID and password, so that not just ICAI can understand, but nobody else will write something in your name or give you exam in your name. So we have user ID password control. So what was the thread in online data entry controls? That the transaction which was entered through online terminal, it was not unauthorized and incorrect. It was not incorrect and unauthorized. Then what are the controls? Range check, limit check, completeness check, and entry limit, range check, limit check, completeness check, and entry limit. User ID, password, control. Now let's see data processing and storage. Now for data processing and storage, again the example is the system is generating reports. Okay, the report is a name, user ID, password, then details, qualification, scheme in which you have entered into the exam and all. Now again here also, because the source document or input validation control or data entry control, they were not effective, data processing is also not effective. Again here the systems are generating reports where number is a name. What is the threat? Incorrect processing, incorrect storage. The number will be stored as his name forever in the information system. So there is a threat of incorrect processing and incorrect storage. What are the controls you can use? First one is audit trail. What is audit trail? We can see the flow of transactions from the starting to the end. So when a person is filling the information, we can see how it was filled, when it was filled, by whom it was filled. So there will be audit trail from the beginning to the end of the transaction. Then we will maintain a transaction to identify the time when the transaction was initiated and ended. So that is a transaction log. Then backup data. We will back up all the logs, all the audit trail, so that even if the data is erased, we already have a backup. We can access it and retain the information again, or retrieve the information again. So that is backup data. And then again, once again, we will do periodic audits or frequent audits to make sure that there is an audit trail, then a transaction log is maintained, and at certain period of time or at intervals of time, backup data is also taken. So once again, audit trail, transaction log, backup data, and frequent audits. See, these are the points you can understand from it that these are basically the audit trail objectives. We want audit trail in case of data processing and storage. Now here we will not have a picture check, limit check, reasonableness check, completeness check, and all. Here we will focus on audit trail. After this, we have output controls. Now, what are output controls? In the IT company, we have a designated room for printing. There will be like 10 or 11 printers there. What we have to do is we have to give instructions first from our terminal, from our cabin or our cubicle where we sit, and then we have to go to the printer room after giving instructions. Now, what can happen is if there are no output controls, if you are giving a printout from one of your terminals and you have given the command for printing it only one copy, but because the copy was not initiated, what you did was you gave the same command 10 times. Then you later found out that the machine was not on. So as soon as you started the machine, the same copy was printed 10 times. So this can happen in case of you if you are working in an IT company. So what is the example? Audit report is printing in the maintenance room. Also, if the printer is given is in the maintenance room and there is another printer from another location, that it may happen that you're authorizing a wrong printer to give the output. So what are the threats? Wrong distribution of output or incorrect distribution of output. You must have a software that the person is working on this floor, then the printer on this floor should be used and not the other floor. So how we will make sure of it? We will install a software that will authorize the persons on only that floor to access the system. So what are the threats once again? Wrong distribution of output and incorrect distribution of output. After this, let's see now what controls we will use. Encryption. Now it may happen that a certain someone in the organization is printing in your name so that you get into trouble. So what we will do is we will do encryption. What is encryption? Whenever a command for printing is sent, not just when the printing is sent, we have to go to the again the printer and verify and give our user ID password details. And when the data is being transmitted, it will be encrypted so that nobody else will do wiretapping and alter that data. Okay, what is encryption again? We will change the nature of the data transmission. Then we will do parity bit check. Now, do you know what is parity bit check? It is a new term, parity bit check. What we will do is we will compare the timing of when the command is given and when the output is taken. If you do that, you are making sure that the output is given immediately when the command is given, or the output is given only after the command is authorized. That is what is parity bit check. We will compare the command date and the print date or the output date. Then visual review. What we will do is whenever we give a command to give an output, we will go to the printer room. In that printer room, a message will be displayed on the terminal that this person has been authorized and he has given the command to take these many printouts. So you have a visual review of what are the documents that will be printed once you access the printers. So you can have a visual review. So what we will see is whether visual review is available or not. If it is not available, we will make sure that a system is installed for the output reviews. Then again authorization. So here the points were what are the controls: encryption, parity bit check, and visual review, and obviously authorization. What are the threats in case of output controls? That there is an incorrect distribution of output or a wrong distribution of output. And what are the controls? Encryption, parity bit check, visual review, and authorization. Now here we have the last data integrity controls. After this, we will revise the entire data integrity controls once again. Now, here we will talk about data communication. In earlier stages of our mobile phones, if a message was big, what used to happen is you used to receive that big message in part. Okay, part 1, part 2, part 3. Now, what will happen is sometimes only part 1 and part 2 is received, or only part 1 is received. That can happen if you don't have integrity controls for data communication. What is the threat here? There is a network failure or unauthorized access, or data has been hacked. Data has been hacked, that means information system is no longer able to send messages, or part messages are sent. If a part message is sent, it can give you the wrong message. That is what that is what we are calling it a threat. Then once again, network failure, unauthorized access, and data hacking. These are the threats. Now let's see what are the controls. We will install firewalls. What will these firewalls will do is, whatever traffic which is public, it will restrict that public traffic. In network failure, what happens is, because of the public traffic, our system will overload, or the network will be fully utilized. If it is fully utilized, if you initiate additional tasks, it will not be able to perform them, or even if it is performing them, it will not be as efficient as it was before the public traffic was unlocked. So what we will do is this. What will these firewalls will do is they will divert this public traffic so that the network can work efficiently, and it will also make sure that no viruses enter the system. Then obviously we will do data encryption so that the integrity of the data is maintained when it is being transmitted. Then we will do network monitoring. What is network monitoring? We will see how much load is being handled by the network. If the load is too much, we will use additional information systems, or we will try to divert the public traffic accordingly. That is basically what is network monitoring. That is what you are doing is you are doing load balancing on the network. And once again, we will conduct periodic audits or frequent audits or regular audits to make sure all these controls are working. Now tell me, if you are installing an antivirus software in your computer, what kind of control you are using? Is it a logical access control or a physical access control?
Logical access.
Logical access control.
It is a logical access control. So it is also, in case of data integrity, it is also data communication control. Okay, you can have antivirus for all these controls again. Because they are not given, you are not supposed to write that, but you can write. It is also a part of data integrity controls. Okay, just wait for 1 or 2 minutes to continue with the session.